You see a lot in this job. The good, the bad, and the stupid. You always think you're prepared for it, that you've seen it all. That's why it always hits so hard when you're not prepared. I've been reviewing all my life. I've never known any other line of work. In fact, the first words I ever spoke were a detailed review of Citizen Kane. I still haven't seen that movie. I always like to hear from the older reviewers, see what makes them tick, learn how they operated. They say that you should fear the old in a profession where men die young. You should also fear the young and the middle-aged. In fact, just fear everyone, especially on the internet. It's safer that way. There's a lot of ritual and mysticism to this job that they don't tell you about when you sign up. I myself had to drink the blood of a sacrificial lamb. A lot of other reviewers say they didn't have to do that. Looking back on it, I think I may have been hazed, but that's beside the point. There's this rite of passage among reviewers. An animated film series, infamous for its awfulness. I remember hearing about it back in the day, the far-off year of 2015. I had heard tell of its fever dream-like plotlines, its horrible characters, and its disrespectful depictions of historical tragedies. It's the first real challenge that anyone hoping to review movies on the internet faces. And for some, it was their last. But it wasn't gonna be that for me. My last, I mean, in case that wasn't clear. No, I was gonna face it, and emerge a true online reviewer. This is my story, my legend, and it will go on.
Excuse me, what are you doing?
I'm doing my dramatic opening monologue for the video.
Aren't you supposed to be reviewing some princess game? You know, the prophecy and all that?
Oh, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
Then why'd you end the last video with it?
Yeah, that means I stole my roommate's phone for nothing.
Bad, you live inside of my walls. We are not roommates. And also, where even is my phone?
I chucked it in the river.
You did what?
It stopped working, so I threw it in the river where it dumps stolen produce.
Do you know how hard it is to afford a phone on a serial killer's salary? I'm gonna have to do overtime for a week to replace that.
I'm sorry, the river where you dumped what?
You don't want to know, just trust me.
We're getting off topic. Why aren't you reviewing the princess game?
I like to change plans at random. Keeps you guys on your toes.
I don't think I have toes.
So, yeah, we're doing the Italian Titanic movies. It's funnier.
Okay, so what do I do with the crates of princess dresses I ordered?
Give him the Don. He'll turn a profit with them somehow. I've got it. Sparkly parachute shirts. The Animated Titanic Trilogy is a series of animated movies produced by a whole bunch of different people, directed by a whole bunch of different people, and distributed by a whole bunch of different people. Yeah, despite most of the internet bunching these movies together into a trilogy, they were all actually made by different people and at completely different times. The Legend of the Titanic was actually made first, being released in 1999 and being produced by Orlando Corradi. It's not Karate, it's like Corradi, it's weird. And this other guy, Kim J. Oak, okay? I don't know, it's Korean, I just don't want to get cancelled. Titanic, The Legend Goes On was actually produced, written, and directed by one Camillo Teddy and released in 2000. This movie is usually what people think of first when they hear the words animated Titanic movie. Well, not most people, I guess. Most people would hear the words animated Titanic movie and immediately wish for the end of humanity. The final film in this quote-unquote trilogy was actually released in 2004 and directed solely by Kim, meaning I have to imagine that Kim abided by the rule of two and defeated his master in combat to become the new Sith Lord of Italy. These movies have amassed a bit of infamy on the internet. The Legend Goes On was described as a rite of passage by the internet connoisseur himself, the good Dr. Jonathan Tronley, who, during his review of the film, had a bit of a mental breakdown.
Why, Papa? I can still hear the screams, Papa!
The movies were further made infamous by the good Mr. Doug Walker, who, during his review of the third movie, also had a bit of a mental breakdown. Mental breakdowns are starting to become kind of a running theme with these movies. I'm imagining it to be like some sort of Lovecraftian horror, and trying to review these just induces madness. These movies have become part of online reviewer lore, and since I am attempting to make my parents very proud and become an online reviewer, I feel as though it's time for me to finally tackle the immense challenge that is the Animated Titanic Trilogy. So why don't we start with the most infamous of these terrible triplets, that being Titanic: The Legend Goes On, and then we'll work our way through the other two. It'll be hard. It'll be painful. It may even be cringe. But I know that if we stand together, we will enter this review as basement-dwelling children and emerge as basement-dwelling men and/or women and/or whatever else. Now come on, who's with me? Without further over-dramatizing, let's take a look at the Animated Titanic Trilogy. Roll film.
The movie opens with some credits.
Hi, Camillo. You wrote some weird fanfiction here, buddy.
After giving you just enough time to rethink every life decision you've ever made, the actual movie starts with almost everyone dead. No, I'm serious. The movie actually opens on the boat sinking. I think they might have played their hand a little bit early here, because this happens with absolutely no hype or build-up, and it means I have literally no emotional response to any of this other than utter confusion. This opening does allow us to get acquainted with this movie's revolutionary filmmaking technique of playing the exact same clip over and over again. We are less than 2 minutes into the movie and they are already reusing footage. Why do I feel like this is going to be a running theme? So anyway, the boat is sunk, everyone's dead, and the movie's over. That's all, folks. Thanks for watching. No, not really, unfortunately. We actually cut to an unspecified amount of time before the sinking of the boat, where we get introduced to some of our main characters. This right here is knockoff Anastasia, or as the movie calls her, Angelica, who's traveling with her knockoff Cinderella stepmother and stepsisters. Or at least that's what I think they're supposed to be, I'm kinda just guessing. Angelica is apparently looking for her long-lost parents, as evidenced by this locket that she carries around for 90% of the movie. Well, that and they literally say it.
Never going to find your precious mother.
Your precious mother!
This is
You're
horrible.
wrong. I will find her. And my father too. I'll find them both.
She does not find them both. So after that awkward scene, we get another with a drawn-out and bizarre-looking flyover shot that gives us our first, or rather second, look at the world's worst icebreaker. We then get introduced to all of the annoying, barely existent side characters that this movie is absolutely full of. This entire sequence has some of the most awkward and abrupt character introductions that I have ever seen. Although introduction feels like the wrong word because I don't think I could tell you a single one of these people's names. There's an old lady and her Home Alone burglar sidekicks, this old rich guy, this random blonde-looking dude who's important, another old lady, and some random kids. Another of this movie's revolutionary filmmaking techniques is on display here, that being headache-inducing editing that makes every shot feels like it belongs in a different movie. Anyway, this random French guy, who is apparently named Gaston, but I'm not gonna call him that because he barely has any plot relevance, steals Angelica's locket after it falls on the ground. Also, there's a whole bunch of talking animals boarding the ship as well. Here we get introduced to random immigrant mice family, thief bird with an accent I can't describe, random squirrel, and of course, casually racist Mexican mice band.
Oh no.
What's with the costumes, guys? We've been on tour, senor. And cannot wait to get home, muchachos? Estoy dicen por Chile. Chile. If I join you, I play wicked bongos, you know. Hold it.
After some reused animation and more pointless character introductions, such as this random detective, the ship finally sets sail.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic port aboard this tiny ship. The mate was a mighty sailing man, the skipper brave and sure. 5 passengers set sail that day for a 3-hour tour, a 3-hour tour.
Now we cut to what the movie will be for the next hour. A bunch of random, vaguely connected scenes following the soon-to-be short lives of the passengers aboard the ship. Angelica gets verbally and emotionally abused by the step things before going to interact with her old lady friend. I do not know her relation to this old lady or to these random children. It's never really established, so I have to assume they're just randos she met on the boat. This random mouse child falls into their room, and the movie really wants you to know that these people are the good guys, so they give bread to the mouse. This endears the girl to the mice family, who are for some reason planning a party. The editing of this scene is somehow worse than before, as new characters just appear out of nowhere before disappearing again. I have no idea where this cat and dog came from, and I don't know why they're here. And just as quickly as they appear, they're gone. Thanks to this gray dog, who then, without even taking a second to allow the audience to process what is happening, does this.
You know there's something you should know, so I'm gonna tell you so. Don't sweat it, forget it, enjoy the show. Working all day, now it's time to unwind. Kick back, relax, take a load off your mind.
You are not hallucinating. This is not my doing. I have not edited this. This is the movie. You are witnessing a dog dressed in 90s hip-hop sports attire rapping aboard the storage hold of the Titanic to an audience of assorted rodents and geese. We are only 12 minutes into this movie, and it has already completely lost its mind. This comes out of absolutely nowhere and has no significance to anything. What is the point? Is it an attention grabber? Is it like those stupid mobile game videos that get stitched onto Family Guy clips and YouTube shorts? Is it just to try to keep the attention of the poor children / stupid adult being forced to watch this? This scene never comes up again. It doesn't transition to anything else. It just happens, and then after witnessing the worst thing to ever be put to cinema, we cut to a wicked witch and her non-flying monkeys. These three are like some kind of pseudo-comic relief. They're not really relevant to this movie's nightmare of a story, and they only serve to be the butt of unfunny slapstick. I would much rather pretend that they don't exist and would prefer to continue the so-called plot. So Blondie here is actually named William, and he is the only other character whose name I can remember. Oh, also remember this old lady, she's important. French guy is here, and he proceeds to attempt to harass this random woman, because, you know, French. Don't worry, I won't spend the entire video being racist again. The movie's done enough of that already. There's some irrelevant dog conversation that I won't bother relaying to you, and after some more nonsense comic relief, the movie's two main love interests finally meet. They speak about 2 sentences to each other and make some creepy faces, which of course means it's true love.
Even I know that's not how you're supposed to interact with women.
That's about the closest the movie comes to having a plot for a while, because we then get more animal nonsense and unfunny slapstick, before finding out that the movie can't even get silence right. Seriously, these next 2 scenes have this really odd, dull background noise. I honestly don't know if it's somehow supposed to be like that, or if all the vocals for this movie were just recorded in some Italian guy's basement and it's a side effect of that. Hey, Jerry, are you sure it's a good idea to record in the cave like this?
Yes, Dave, we have talked about this. I will not go back to your mom's attic until you get to the deals that Spidery shall. Now shut up and get to working. The
movie's plot meanders around for a bit before the French dude gives this random lady the locket he stole. I do not know who this lady is or what her relation to anyone is. She's just here, and every time she shows up, I get a little bit angrier. The 2 star-crossed morons finally meet up again, and William here has some of the creepiest dialogue I have ever heard.
Too busy looking for someone. Now that I've found her, I'm not going to let her get away from me again.
That's disturbing.
The movie continues to rip off Cinderella by having Angelica's old lady friend give her a fancy dress to wear to a party. Meanwhile, some knife mice are trying to look for the stolen locket and fail miserably, resulting in a pointless scene that adds nothing. They then bring in the thief bird from earlier to steal back the locket that the French guy rightfully stole. I am cutting down a whole bunch of this because my notes for this part of the movie just read, "and then stuff happened." To describe what happens in this scene would be like trying to describe air to a fish. It completely lacks any form of perceivable substance and means nothing. All I do know is that now the lock has been returned. Whoopee. Let's skip ahead a bit. The ship's captain drops some painfully obvious foreshadowing on us.
The Baltic has sighted icebergs in the area. Says to keep a lookout. No reason to be unduly alarmed.
We have foreshadowing.
Tell Stockard to let me know if there's any change in the type of ice we're seeing.
That's called foreshadowing. Woo!
Then, Angelica and William attend the party, while a whole bunch of random unrelated frames of animation fly around. They then finally end up together somehow, I guess. 2 bland pieces of cardboard who barely said anything to each other. But hey, someone here is happy, I guess. Meanwhile, the animals are having some type of Mexican rave backed by a song with lyrics that do not rhyme. I am not even joking. And this scene contains probably the most reused footage of the entire film, and that's saying something. Like, to the point that I thought the movie was looping and I had become trapped in a cycle of endless torment. That's how bad the recycling gets. They don't even take time in between frames to reuse footage. Half of this movie is just copy and pasted. I really want to know how this movie was written and storyboarded, because there was no way a stable or sane person could have created this.
Hi there, and welcome to the Already Too Late Show. I'm your host, Soulless Corporate Shill. And today, we meet the brilliant mind behind the revolutionary piece of Italian cinema, Titanic, The Legend Goes On, Mr. Camillo Teddy. Now, Mr. Teddy.
It's pronounced Teddy.
I don't care.
Oh.
Could you tell us your thought process while creating this masterpiece of a film? I mean, what inspired you?
I fell asleep drunk watching the History Channel at 3 a.m. When I woke up, I found a 200-page-long Titanic fanfiction, a bag of dead mice, and a half-written email to my agent trying to sell him this movie. I hit send in a hungover haze, and now I'm in too deep to go back. Would you like to hear more?
No, that's enough. Get off my set.
Uh-oh, I think I hear a 4/4 string Ostiano in D minor. Every sailor knows that means deaf. In case you forgot that this is a Titanic movie, which I totally did. Sorry, not my fault the movie has covered every other plot line known to man. The ship is about to hit an iceberg, and it does! Meaning we get to watch all of these moronic characters flail about in a desperate attempt to save themselves from the inevitable. In any other movie, watching a historical tragedy play out would be horrifying. But here, I'm honestly rooting for the iceberg to win. If it seems like I'm not being very professional or offering genuine criticism, it's because I'm not. You can't really professionally critique something like this because it's just too hard to follow along with. Trying to review this is like trying to review someone's half-baked fever dreams. How do I give honest criticism when I only know the name of 2 characters and I can't decipher the plot? Elf Bowling was moronic, but at least semi-competently put together and I could follow along with what was happening. I can't do that here. I've been going on that tirade because there is surprisingly nothing happening in this travesty of a climax. It's just a bunch of reused footage and closure to pointless character arcs. Like this scene where this old guy and this fat lady profess their love for each other despite both of them actually being poor. These characters occupy maybe 2 minutes of the entire movie's runtime. They're not even side characters, they're more like tangent characters. Subscribe for more cool math jokes like that one. There's also a completely pointless comic relief scene where the evil old lady gets hurt while trying to steal jewelry. This is happening while multiple people are dying horrible deaths, by the way. Great sense of tone there, movie. Oh, and the glass on board the Titanic was apparently made of rubber because it bounces when hit with a chair. This is not important at all, it just made me angry, so I need to mention it. So now we're basically right back where the movie started. We've gone full circle, the snake is eating its own tail, all that good stuff. William's probably lost to sea, but does anyone really care? Remember the random old lady that I said was important? No, not that one. Not that one either. Yeah, that one. In the big, shocking final twist of the movie, this random old bat who has had maybe only 2 lines of dialogue in the entire movie is actually Angelica's long-lost mother.
Yes, this is stupid.
This twist is not foreshadowed, makes no sense, and is barely explained. It comes out of nowhere, and because I wanted all of these characters to die horribly like an hour ago, I do not care. That random detective character has his only even vaguely important scene when his unconscious body is used as a fake out while looking for William's unconscious body. Hey, William's alive! Unfortunately. And with his rescue, the movie is over, ending just as abruptly as the movie began. Except no, not really, because there's actually a Where Are They Now section. Meaning I don't even have the satisfaction of knowing that all of these characters slowly froze to death on a lifeboat. Well, at least the movie is over. It was honestly so hard to review this because like I said, it's impossible to follow what is happening. There is so much nonsense going on and I don't care about any of it. The movie looks cheap, it feels cheap, and it's abundantly clear that no real effort was put into making an actual movie. And before someone comments, yes, I know that there are 2 different English dubs of this movie. The one that I watched and the one that most people know is a drastically cut and edited version, one that features an altered plot and completely different scenes. But I don't think that changes my opinion of this movie at all because there is no way the original version was any better. You can't save a sinking ship, and this movie perfectly demonstrates that, both figuratively and literally. I was at least able to laugh at the awfulness of the movie a few times, which is more than I can say for the other movies. Speaking of which, it's time to get to the other 2 movies, and if you thought this one was bad, you would be correct, but the other ones are also bad. First, though, here's Green Screen Reagan with an interlude so that these reviews can be broken up a bit more.
The Legend of the Titanic is a 1999 animated film created by a whole bunch of people whose names I already said and will not be repeating. The film is actually an Italian, Spanish, American, and North Korean co-production. And you know what? That kind of tracks. I could honestly see Kim Jong-un using this as a torture device. That is actually all the history I could find for this movie. There is surprisingly little information about these movies on the internet other than, you know, the fact that they're awful. Although I did find a quote from a critic who called it, quote, "A giddy so bad it's the most essential movie I've ever seen disaster of tasteless incompetence." If that's not a sign of high quality filmmaking, then I don't know what is. Anyway, intermission complete, let's take a look at The Legend of the Titanic.
The movie opens with credits and ill-fitting music. No, seriously, just listen to this. It sounds like goddamn elevator music, but I guess it's a better opening than the other movie. Here we meet the movie's totally necessary talking animal characters, as this fat old mouse is telling his mice grandchildren about what really happened to the Titanic. Because in actuality, nobody died on the ship, it's all just a big misunderstanding.
The truth of the matter is that those missing persons were never really missing. It's all a misunderstanding.
Wow! Way to make me hate your movie in the first 10 seconds! Nobody really died, it's just a misunderstanding. That's like me saying Hitler didn't... Oh, Sorry, it appears I've got a message from my legal team here, and yeah, it's just the word don't in all caps. Anyway, the movie actually begins with Fat Grandpa Mouse flashing back to his glory days on the Titanic. Time to get acquainted with the human aspect of this story. Elizabeth here and her father, so Topham Hatt, are preparing to board the worst cruise since Carnival, before then cutting back to the mice. Here we encounter literally Sylvester from Looney Tunes. He's in this scene, and yeah, nothing else. This next scene serves as just a series of annoying rat and mouse puns. Oh, it also introduces this other important mouse whose name I don't know. Let's see, I'm gonna call this one Soccer Mouse and this one Sailor Mouse. Sailor Mouse is also the grandpa, by the way, in case you couldn't tell. They're important to the story, but remember that important is a vague term, just like story. After some totally necessary scenes, we cut back to the humans. The Fat Controller and Elizabeth are waiting for this dude, obvious bad guy. He wants to marry Elizabeth so that he can convince her father to give him exclusive worldwide whaling rights. Yes, this is really the main villain's goal. Elizabeth, who I am tired of calling by her actual name and instead will be calling Dingbat, doesn't want to marry obvious bad guy because he's an obvious bad guy and his evil plan is lame. The marriage has already been arranged though, so better get used to the smell of whale, Dingbat. Except maybe not, because there's a bunch of... well, the movie calls them gypsies. But I can't say that because it's apparently offensive, and my legal team is already having fits trying to make sure I can have a career. I don't need to call them that though, because I think they're actually some type of Spanish or Latin American, maybe? It's not that important because this scene is barely relevant outside of introducing the main love interest. That would be this crazy guy right here and his dog, Smiles. I don't know if they ever actually say this guy's name in the movie. Yeah, this is one of our main characters and they never even say his name. The Wikipedia article for this movie calls him Don Juan, but that's dumb, so instead let's call him Jimothy. Why? I don't know. Just like I don't know why Jimothy's dog stole Dingbat's glove or why Jimothy decides to smell said stolen gloves.
What a heavenly fragrance.
The frick?
Let's try to think about that as little as possible. The boat's finally setting sail. Woohoo, I guess! There's a meeting of the mice on board the ship. It's totally meaningless and serves no purpose other than to introduce this overweight French mouse. Remember him, because he basically disappears from the plot after this scene, but becomes relevant later. Now it's time for an awkward dinner scene, because everyone loves those. It's agonizingly slow, and yet again, nothing happens. So Dingbat runs out of the dinner to go cry on the bow of the ship. And it's here, right here, that the movie finally, full-on, begins to lose its mind. Alright, so listen to this. Dingbat cries, and the tears get hit with magic moonbeams that give her the ability to talk to animals. This is explained by this half-dolphin, half-orca, half-carrot abomination, who physically assaults Sailor Mouse. They then explain that they are in the midst of a desperate battle to save the whales from Obvious Bad Guy and his whaling ships. But wait, there's more! Obvious Bad Guy fails to get a hold of those whaling rights from Topham Hatt due to Dingbat hating his guts. He then tells his orangutan-esque minion to go contact the gang of prison sharks that they're in cahoots with and tells them to be ready to sink the ship on Obvious Bad Guy's command. What is going on?
What is happening? What is in this water?
The two totally necessary mice characters go to convince Dingbat to try and get out of her arranged marriage, because whining never solved anyone's marital woes, it just made them worse. Don't believe me? Just ask my parents.
Hey!
Jimothy is in the movie again, that's good I guess. He's telling his dog about how he's been obsessing over Dingbat, the girl he saw for less than 2 seconds, and based on the whole glove sniffing thing, probably wants to wear her skin as a face mask. Oh, also his voice kinda sounds like CDI Link, I just wanna mention that.
You're right, amigo. Of course I'll see her again.
Gee, it sure is boring around here.
Meanwhile, Obvious Bad Guy's new plan is to just straight up lie to Topham Hatt and say that Dingbat likes him now, so that he'll sign over the whaling rights. A plan which I honestly respect the simplicity of. So the mice tip Dingbat off to this diabolical plan, and she decides to deal with it. How, you may ask? By just going to her father and saying she doesn't want to marry Obvious Bad Guy. And that works somehow, despite the movie opening with the father saying that he supports the marriage and yelling at her for wanting to get out of it. Oh, and Jimothy's still being creepy with that glove, by the way, I just thought you'd like to know. Except now instead of just smelling it, he's rubbing it all over his face. Good God, man, Chris Chan was less weird with women than you. Get a hobby! Anyway, Jimothy's dog meets with the mice duo and can for some reason talk now, despite never doing so at any other point in the movie. And his voice is shockingly ill-fitting.
Right on that, my friend. Sometimes I just lose sight of the fact that not all creatures are created equal.
This is the same dog that peed on some guy's leg in the opening of the movie. Why does he have an upper-class British accent? These things do not go together. Good day, fine gentlemen, ladies, and others such alike. My name is Crazy Rob, and I am a known criminal element within my community. Today we shall be committing an act of destructive intent utilizing this crowbar. A large amount of thanks and applaud must be offered to the financial sponsor of this videographic experience, Dimes for Crimes, who were gracious enough to provide me with this tool for the expediting of my hoodlum-like behavior.
Martha,
That crazy guy with the funny accents on our porch again. Get your shotgun.
Oh dear, it appears that I must cut our time together short. I am most grateful for you choosing— Oh, great heavens! So the dog and the mice are conspiring to introduce Dingbat and Jimothy somehow. Meanwhile, Jimothy is in what I can only describe as an opium den, drinking a beer mug full of water. Don't even try to ask questions because I don't have answers. The mice are freeing these two birds from this cage. Again, don't ask why. Like I said, I have no answers. Jimothy complains that people are smoking in the opium den, so he decides to go walk around on deck. The mice get Dingbat on deck. The mice get Dingbat on— The mice get Dingbat— The mice get Dingbat on deck at the same time by lying to her. Now that Dingbat and her stalker have finally met face to face, they share one dance set to the same piece of music that has been playing for half of the movie. And despite only speaking to each other one singular time, that being when Jimothy asks for the dance, they're somehow in love. I have legitimately read crack ship fan fictions that had better central romances than this movie. At least in most of those, the characters had a full-on conversation with each other before hooking up. The best part though is how after they finish dancing and kiss, all of the random animals on the ship show up to cheer for them. Instead of reacting like most normal people would and jumping off the side of the ship in terror, Jimothy thanks them! I understand why Dingbat isn't flipping out. She got the Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boat origin story treatment so that she could talk to animals, but why is Jimothy not reacting? I know he talked to his dog, but that was just normal dog owner behavior. This is a man watching a swarm of fully clothed mice cheer for him as he makes out with a girl he was stalking, which then devolves into all of them dancing like idiots to knock off Donkey Kong Country music.
Now, this may strike some viewers as harsh, but I believe everyone involved in this story should die.
After that, we get this flyover shot of an awful CGI boat, where I swear the camera clips through the model. Dingbat is having a pointless fight with her stepmother, a character whose existence I never mentioned because she does basically nothing except let obvious bad guy exposition dump his evil plans. So Topham Hatt then gives Dingbat his blessing to marry Jimothy, the guy who, and I cannot stress this enough, she danced with one singular time. Holy cow, woman, even Anna would be telling you to slow down. It's like you're trying to speedrun a relationship. So obvious bad guy and the stepmother go off and plot evilly. The mice overhear the plan, even though the audience doesn't, and rush to tell Jimothy of all people, who can now somehow understand them for some reason. Obvious bad guy is going to order his shark minions to sink the ship soon. But first he's going to send out a message telling his fleet of ships to start hunting whales. The mice have to stop it, so they chew through the ship's telegraph wires. Meanwhile, we cut to a completely different movie as the criminal sharks plan to trick this giant pink octopus, rather creatively named Tentacles, into throwing an iceberg at the ship. Obvious bad guy then forces Topham Hatt at gunpoint to sign over the whaling rights and his entire fortune to him. Cash money in hand, the bad guys steal a lifeboat to escape the now soon-to-be sinking ship.
Woo! Yeah, maybe that's what it's all about. Woo!
So everyone's panicking, running for their no-good lives and whatnot, and the captain orders the crew to send out an SOS through the telegraph system. The telegraph system that the mice chewed through, meaning the entire situation can best be summed up thusly.
Well, we're boned.
The only hope now is for the mice to try and tie the wires together. Remember during the start of this movie how I said that the random overweight French mouse was going to be important? Well, here's how. They use his mustache to connect the split wires, which somehow works and the SOS is sent out. However, overweight French mouse dies in the process. RIP to a real one, I guess. The pink octopus from earlier is going to try to help save the ship to try and make up for being the direct cause of it sinking. This then cuts to this sea captain mouse deciding to go on a tirade about women in the middle of an evacuation.
To let the humans see you, especially the women. They just raise a ruckus and get in the way.
Women.
I do have bad news though. Apparently no one is going to die because this movie makes a point of saying that there's enough lifeboats for everyone. It then hammers this point home by having the octopus and the whales appear out of nowhere to save the ship in one giant middle finger of a Deus Ex Machina. So everyone is saved, leaving this movie's kill count at only one octopus and one French mouse.
Leaving us with this disgusting mouse and calamari flavored pie chart. This count and species breakdown has never been seen in any movie ever. That's because it's stupid. And with an agonizing runtime of 84 minutes, that leaves us with a kill on average every 42 minutes. God, this is stupid.
Unfortunately, this movie doesn't end here though, because after we get to witness the underwhelming fate of the bad guys, it cuts to sometime after the sinking of the ship, where Jimothy and Dingbat are getting married in an unholy union. The movie then outdoes one bad romance with another, as Sailor Mouse is marrying this mouse lady. She probably has a name or something, but she only existed for 2 scenes, so I don't care. But wait, there's one final twist, because after the wedding, Jimothy, Dingbat, and the captain for some reason all rush over to see that Tentacles is actually alive, and so is the overweight French mouse somehow. Not only is this scene a absolutely moronic cop-out, but it retroactively makes my kill count parody meaningless. What was even the point of the death scenes if you're just gonna pull a stunt like this? Was it so you didn't upset the little kiddies at home, because you can't have people die in cartoons? Well, I hate to break it to you, buddy, but The Lion King has already been out for about 5 years at this point. Your audience has stared mortality in the face. You have no excuse. If Disney can have their protagonist desperately try to cuddle with the corpse of their father, you can let a French mouse get electrocuted to death. With one final Shrek dance party on top of a whale, Sailor Mouse's fever dream of a story finally ends, and we cut back to where we started, with him as a fat, old, senile freak scaring his grandkids. We didn't even save the whales, because the movie ends with a call to action talking about how we need to save the whales at all costs. Let's see here real quick. When did whaling end? At least 9 years before this movie came out, rendering the message null and void. Well, that was atrocious. Yeah, the last one was painful, but at least there it was stupid enough to where I could laugh at it. This one is just pure insipid nonsense from beginning to end. The animation is trash, the story is a joke, and it's not even ironically entertaining. It's done though, so I can take comfort in that. It's time for the third movie, so let's hurry it up and get this over with.
Tentacolino, also called In Search of the Titanic, is a 2004 animated film made by the same people who made The Legend of the Titanic. If you want to hear all those people's names again, just play the intro over. I can't be bothered. There is little to no information on this movie's production as far as I can tell, and honestly, I am not surprised about that. This film is often considered by many to be the worst of the trilogy, and considering how low the bar was set by the other 2 movies, that's a little concerning.
The bar has been lowered to depths we can't even fathom.
One interesting fact, though, is that this movie was solely an Italian and North Korean co-production. Meaning, I have no doubt in my mind that these movies were produced as a North Korean psyop to prepare the Western world for a coming invasion. I honestly don't have anything else to say. Let's just get to the movie and wrap this up. These films are giving me a migraine. Let's take a look at In Search of the Titanic.
The movie opens with reused clips from the last movie over a list of everyone I'm going to be adding to my strongly dislike with a passion list, before finally beginning the actual movie with some bad CGI. So immediately, I don't know what's happening. I had to look up what's actually going on here because we get no exposition whatsoever. Dingbat, Jimothy, Dog, Sailor Mouse, and Soccer Mouse are being sent on a mission by the US Navy to explore the depths of the ocean in search of the wreck of the Titanic. I do not know why they in particular have been selected to do this when literally anyone else seems like a better choice. Maybe Navy recruitment is down or something. It's hard to convince someone to not only suffer for money, but to suffer for money while being moist on a boat. Although I don't think even the Navy would be desperate enough to hire a dog. Here's our main characters, by the way, all of which have completely different voices that make this mindless banter sound like nails on a chalkboard. We see some sharks observing the submarine, and they decide to go tell their boss about it. This cuts to some absolutely atrocious CGI, before then somehow transitioning into shark rap.
The frick is that? Why do I hear rap music? No. Ow! Oh god, no.
This is awful. That's all I can really say. And I hate every second of it. Lines repeat constantly, and the sound quality is just so bad. You can only make out half of what they're trying to say. It doesn't get any better once the song finally finishes, because after some nonsensical shark dialogue, they go to sink the yellow submarine. Which gives me a brief glimmer of hope that these characters are going to die horribly before yanking it away from me by having them be saved by the octopus from the last movie. The octopus's name has been changed from the last movie for some reason, but I don't care enough to learn the new name. Here's a necessary scene of the shark getting his teeth cleaned, because that's needed. So continuing the trend of these movies losing their mind at around the 12-minute mark, the Sea Horsemen of the Apocalypse arrive to help save the main characters. Oh, and also obvious bad guy is back and he changed his hair color. Oh, and like in the last movie, he's in league with the sharks somehow. None of this is important in any way to anything, but the movie brought it up and I don't want to suffer alone. Now it's time for the movie to officially become an acid trip. So the mer people take our unconscious cast of characters to Atlantis, where, without their consent or knowledge, they are all forced to undergo some form of medical treatment that allows them to breathe underwater. Real quick though, take a look at this editing.
There won't be any nasty surprises.
That was a cut. Wait, was it really that awkwardly silent? Hang on.
There won't be any nasty surprises.
Oh
my god, they just lingered on that shot, silent and uninterrupted for 2 whole seconds for no reason. Oh my god. They actually linger on that shot with no music or motion for a full 2 seconds before starting the scene. We then cut to probably the creepiest scene in the movie so far, as we're introduced to Atlantis' creepy faceless king and his advisors. This consists of Red Dolphin, creepy sentient rock chair thing, Weaselfish, and Springfish, whose voice I hate. They're discussing how to tell their new captives, guests, that they're stuck here forever. The king leaves the responsibility to Springfish, thus cutting to the main characters in the world's creepiest Hilton lobby. The merpeople, after forcing them to undergo a medical procedure, are now forcing them to drink this strange elixir. Dingbat tries to question this, but is immediately shot down by Jimothy, who is just the worst ever. This entire sequence is just horribly unnerving. All the time you're watching, you get this feeling deep in your gut that something is wrong, but you don't know what. This entire scene is shot, written, and played like the beginning of a horror movie. Jimothy's brainwashed look and dialogue certainly do not help the situation. If this was a horror movie, he'd be selling out his friends and then dying first. Now we get a tour of Atlantis, and I gotta say I never thought that the legendary Lost City would look like the dollar store version of the Land Pavilion at Epcot. We also learned that apparently Atlantis is occupied by living toys rescued from sunken ships. How are they alive? Well, don't look at me, I don't know either! Now it's time for our hostages to get a welcome party from Springfish, and this character has the worst singing voice of probably anything ever. Just listen.
We have a king and have a queen. Here is a surprise. You can thank your lucky stars that I have saved your life.
Oh, you think that's bad? Just wait till the rave music kicks in. Oh, you didn't know there was rave music? Yeah, there's rave music.
At the fish tech, it's a real cool sound. Coming to my shelf, a dozen custard dime. Every single day, it's always party time.
And just when you think it's going to end, it starts up again and somehow gets worse.
So, here we go again.
The water is fresh, you can swim around. It's always
please make it stop.
Eventually, it does end though, thank the Lord, and Springfish officially drops the news that our captives are in fact captives.
Up there. You can't go back.
Live reaction, Reagan, what are your thoughts on the previous scene?
You know, I've never been particularly religious, but I think today might be the day.
My thoughts exactly. Thank you, live reaction, Reagan. Anyway, so now Jimothy and Dingbat are meeting with creepy faceless king. How does Jimothy react to the fact that he and his friends are being held hostage in an underwater city by No-Face Bob and his band of sleep paralysis demons? Well, you've heard of Stockholm Syndrome, right? Then you better get ready for stage 4 terminal Stockholm Syndrome with a side of domestic abuse. I'm talking straight up, just willingly becoming a hostage levels of Stockholm Syndrome here. Jimothy is cool with everything going on here. In fact, he seems downright overjoyed at the prospect of being a prisoner thousands of miles away from any form of human civilization. The others are either just as brainwashed or beaten into submission by Jimothy. Let's cut to some completely needed footage of the dog chasing after this lady dog, who does not have a name or even speaks once, meaning that she barely qualifies as an actual character. Sailor Mouse and Soccer Mouse have a dedicated scene where they meet this unexplained pirate rat and this shockingly racist caricature. This movie was really brave enough to come out and say, no more casual racism, we're going ranked about halfway through the plot and have it be a major part of the story. So Pirate Rat and Racist Rat take Sailor Mouse and Soccer Mouse to this weird secret air tunnel thing. I am going to ignore this pointless dog romance scene that the movie cuts to because it's pointless, and instead we'll just be going back to the rat thing. Sailor Mouse and Soccer Mouse discover a secret rat revolutionary group who want to escape Atlantis, feed the giant octopus to the shark guys from earlier, and then use a stolen magic elixir to conquer the world. You know what? I am honestly on these guys' side. Even they think that Atlantis is a distorted nightmare of randomness. Why did they make what are supposed to be the bad guys the most relatable characters? The mice have snitched on the rat revolution to Jimothy and Dingbat. Being the good brainwashed authoritarian bootlickers that they are, they relay the information to No-Face Bob. Here we also learn that screwdrivers have been banned in Atlantis for some unknown reason.
They'll have to have a screwdriver, and down here in Atlantis there are no screwdrivers. They've all been banned.
Wait a minute. A dystopian totalitarian nightmare state run by a shadowy dictator of absolute power that once entered cannot be left. One that is also hyper-militarized, crushes civilian resistance, brainwashes people, and spouts utopian propaganda. Hang on, who made this movie again? Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So the dear leader here has a plan to foil the rat revolution. What's the plan? To let Sailor Mouse and Soccer Mouse help the rats with their plan. No, I am not joking. They are then going to replace the flask of magic elixir that they plan to steal with a fake one. Oh, and also, Jimothy says this.
All we have to do is win.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Here's the thing that really irritates me about the plan to stop the rats, other than the fact that I want the rats to win. They're not going to replace the flask before the rats execute their plan. They're going to switch out the flask as the rats are stealing it. Do I even need to explain how stupid this is? Cause it's stupid. It's beyond stupid. It's moronic. It's idiotic. Some may even say... Wait, can you still say brain dead? Okay, no one is saying I can't, so I'm gonna assume I can. This plan is brain dead. Anyway, after a pointless fight scene, the plan somehow works and the flasks are switched, meaning that the rats have been successfully Smeckledorfed. That went well. Time to declare war. No, really, that's their next plan of action. I don't even know why they would do this other than spite and a lust for rat blood. The rats' plan to take over the world cannot succeed without the magic elixir. You can just let them leave and that'll be it. You beat them. I guess the movie just feels it needs to have a big epic climax even though it hasn't earned or deserved it. Also, obvious bad guy is back because the shark sent him a telegram asking for submarine reinforcements. I'm not even gonna bother writing a joke for this. What's happening back in Atlantis? Oh, the dog has a gun. That's great. I'm gonna completely skip over the scene with the Scottish cross-dressing doll that fires a cannon to lift a made-up curse and then never shows up again. Just trust me, it's for the best. Okay, so now obvious bad guy and his submarines are getting lasered to death. Then the octopus beats up the shark. Oh, also the dog chases down and shoots racist rat. That's fun. We've won, I guess, and the king lets us see what happened to the rats in a scene that's horribly paced and way too drawn out. The rats are attempting to convince what I'm guessing is a community of other rats of their plan to use the magic elixir to conquer the world. They attempt to prove the elixir's power by trying to drown this old guy mouse, but it doesn't work and they get taken away. I just cut what was like a 5-minute long scene down into 5 seconds. My god, this movie has bad pacing. Also, once that scene concludes, there's this random shot of the octopus's face pressed up against the screen in what I assume is an editing error. I have never seen a movie before that actually left in a mistake that noticeable. How did this pass any kind of quality control? Oh, and remember when I said that screwdrivers were banned in Atlantis? Well, here's this random talking screwdriver character that shows up out of literally nowhere and is never acknowledged by anyone. I do not know where it came from. I do not know why it's here. All I know is that I'm going to be leaving this movie with a newfound drinking problem, the likes of which would make even the average Irishman tremble. My liver will not survive the coming months, that I can guarantee. Anyway, getting back on track, King Faceless has a surprise for Jimothy and Dingbat to thank them for doing literally nothing. It's the Titanic! Remember that? Cause I sure don't! It's been restored and equipped with a magic flat screen TV that lets them see anywhere in the world. So Sailor Mouse of course uses it to see what happened to all the rats that got taken away. We then cut to a random Dr. Mouse and his nurses in some type of creepy dungeon? What is this? Wait, this isn't... Oh my god, it's a rat insane asylum! This scene is horrifying. I cannot describe to you how shocked I was when I first saw this scene. Everything about it is just wrong. Every second. There's even a part where the rat leader is in a straitjacket desperately begging the rat doctor to be released. What's happening now? It's a rat mental institution? What? What's happening?
I'm afraid we'll have to keep him in here forever.
The characters react to this horrifying scene with a dance party set to Big Boo's haunt music, and then it ends! Good heavenly lord above, this was awful! Let's go to the green screen and finish this up. I don't want to talk about this movie any more than I have to.
Well, that's the films, folks, and honestly, I hope Italy never makes any form of animated film ever again. Seriously though, this has been one of the toughest reviews I've done so far, because it's so hard to explain just how awful these movies are without getting repetitive. I can only say, and then something stupid happened, so many times before you get bored and decide to click off the video. All 3 of these movies are bad, and they all do the same bad thing. All have awful editing, they all have terrible stories that don't make any sense, and they all have stupid characters that I wanted to see die. Yeah, there's some moments where it gets so stupid and nonsensical that I laugh, but I only laugh because the alternative is to begin sobbing uncontrollably. Well, that or extreme violence. Do not watch these. Don't even do it ironically. It's not worth the mental damage that you will undergo. I don't care how intoxicated you are, it will not help. This trilogy of error deserves to rot at the bottom of the ocean, and I think it's time that we finally laid it to rest. As a whole, the Animated Titanic Trilogy receives a final rating of 0 icebergs out of 10. And that's it. I've done it. I've completed this reviewer rite of passage, and honestly, I feel incredibly empty on the inside, but hey, I can probably fill that hole with money or booze or something. It's time to move on to better things, to new adventures, not dead memes like this. So come on, let's go see what the next video is gonna be. Alright, let's see what we got going on here. Where is it? Paper bag, bring me my video schedule!
Here you go, boss.
Thank you, my good man, or bag. Alright, let's see what we got here. Munch. The heck is a Super Releasio? We're never gonna escape the dead memes, are we? No! Yeah, I thought so.